I'm glad I get to bring some positivity to this episode, because I don't know, I'm better than you or something.
Wow, more like I don't know what the fuck was going on in my game, but I played it.
Wow. I played Prince of Persia 2008. It was a soft reboot of the Prince of Persia franchise. So there were originally 3 side-scroller games way the fuck back in the day. Then they were rebooted into the more well-established and very popular Prince of Persia, like Sands of Time trilogy, which then much later got a 4th entry, which was weird. This happened just after the primary story had wrapped up. This was also after Ubisoft had acquired the rights to this franchise and had been slowly making Assassin's Creed in the background, because they had just developed a concept for a Prince of Persia game that didn't quite match. So then they made the first Assassin's Creed, which came out in 2007. They made this, which came out in 2008, and then kind of simultaneously killed Prince of Persia again. So then they just leaned on Assassin's Creed, and here we are, many moons later, and look outside your window. What world do we live in? It doesn't have sand. It has... I couldn't come up with a good joke on that one. I'm sorry. We do have Italians. Italians are still a real thing, probably because of Assassin's Creed.
I hate sand.
Sand definitely hates you. So this came out for, what was that, the 7th gen? PS3, Xbox 360. It was ported to fucking Mac, which is very funny. It's very true. As I look like I'm oscillating up and down. So it's a 3D platformer. It is kind of a Metroidvania, but not that much. Just a wee little bit. So it follows a new character who is not even a prince, which is funny. Doesn't really matter. He is a roaming bounty hunter, mercenary, treasure hunter. He's the guy. Insert generic video game pro tag here, except he talks, because he's voiced by Nolan North. So he had to talk a lot. He's witty and sarcastic and doesn't take anything seriously. You know exactly what voice to think of for this guy. He loses his donkey in the opening of the game and stumbles across a princess from a magical kingdom who is running away from bad people. So he decides, oh, of course, pussy, I gotta go find that. So he helps her out. I'm barely joking either.
Bro, same.
So eventually we find out that she is running away from her name is Elika, by the way. She's actually a phenomenal character. But she is running away from her dad, who's the king of his kingdom, who basically made a deal with the devil, kind of. His name is Ahriman. It's very... a lot of the cultural and religious stuff in here is very Zoroastrian, which is really fucking cool, because it's like a kind of niche-ish religion that I actually have a decent amount of knowledge on, because I did a lot of research in high school, because I was weird.
Autistic.
We didn't know that yet. Somehow. It wasn't confirmed.
But we're pretty sure.
Yeah. So he made a deal to restore the kingdom or whatever the fuck if he got to kill his kid, whatever the fuck. It's weird. It sets up very confusing out the gate, which is part of the story, is why is so muddy and blah, blah, blah. The two of them have to go around this very large map, which is pretty cool, of 4 different subcontinents within this kingdom, and liberate them from the forces of darkness, because you have to have your big bad fart cloud bad guy who has the powers of evil and also has evil henchmen who have been given the forces of evil. In hindsight, it kind of reminded me of Breath of the Wild a little bit. A little, just in terms of having 4 main bosses effectively at the corners of the map. Not much else besides that.
I mean, you could say that about that, Link to the Past.
That's true. That is true. And probably Final Fantasies. I don't know.
No.
So as we go to these 4 different areas, they are all uniquely formed for this bad guy. These 4 henchmen, if you will. The 4 horsemen. Why is your girlfriend being funny?
No! I said it in the group chat, but it doesn't make any fucking sense.
What the fuck? Okay. We have the warrior, I can't remember her name. She's a woman, and she used to be a prostitute. You can guess where this is going. I can't remember.
Mom?
Maybe your mom. Mine's dead for tragic backstory reasons. The hunter, the warrior, woman, and the big bad scientist man. I can't remember their specific titles. I'm very sorry. But they are all very unique in terms of their character designs, their skill sets, and how they've been imbued with the power of darkness and shit. And then that correlates to the parts of the map that they are in. Say the scientist has, he's basically in like a floating city of platforms and hot air balloons and all sorts of weird sciencey steampunk shit. And then each one of these characters, except the hunter, he's just an evil guy who wanted to be more evil, which is really disappointing. The other three have actually pretty interesting backstories in terms of being a normal person with their own skill set and goals, and then falling to some temptation or another to the bad guys and getting their bad juju juice. Like the scientist wanted to conquer death because, of course, going from mad scientist to being like, oh, I can power this entire world forever, but I can't finish it if I don't survive. Like, I have to live. So make me live forever, but Lamau, you're bad and evil now. The warrior wanted to become able to fight forever for his people, so he becomes a literal tank. He's actually invulnerable in the game. You can't fight him directly, which is pretty cool. And the woman whose name again I can't remember. It's a pretty stereotypical archetype she falls into of effectively being woman who she's the Bene Gesserit, basically. She uses Bene Gesserit. Holy shit!
She's literally my mom.
Bene Gesserit, turbo pussy, to become important within certain kingdoms and work her way up the social ladder to get power, which is a very sexist stereotype. But for what the character is, it actually works pretty well. And she's all thin and gangly and uses shawls and stuff. It's very Persian looking.
That's racist.
No, it's not. I didn't make the game. I'm just identifying it.
Borderline.
There's a lot of stuff in here that's a little probably wasn't aged. It probably already aged poorly before release. But anyways, you have to liberate all of these areas. Throughout all of this, you are collecting light seeds. Elika, for some reason, has the power of the good side of magic. She has magic life force abilities. They're all kind of vague, but she can kind of fly sometimes. She will save you from dying at any point within this game. You literally cannot die. She will always save you from falling off a platform, failing a jump, immediately reviving you when you get to too low health, all that sort of stuff.
So that's why you like this game.
That's why I initially liked the game when I was 12. So as you go along, you're collecting light seeds. There's 1,001 of them, which does play well into the story and the themes about the different mythological forces going on and how to liberate these areas and all that sort of stuff. However, Ubisoft game 1,001 collectibles. You know exactly where that goes.
Actually 1,001?
Literally 1,001.
Wow.
It's not as bad as many Assassin's Creeds would become because it is a lot more story relevant. But yeah, there's a lot. They are hidden in some pretty interesting places. It does effectively turn all of your types of collectibles into one, which I actually appreciate for this game. It feels very focused on gaining experience through collecting these things, upping your collective power. It makes sense. It doesn't feel like a complete drain on time. It's still a little grindy, though. And that's how all of your combat abilities get upgraded. She will get new skills and stuff to throw you into a double jump or whatever based on how many light seeds you find, which then leads to backtracking, and that's where all the Metroidvania stuff comes in. It's not too much. It is on the line, though, especially because the game kind of is an open world, but not really. The technology wasn't quite there at the time, and it's also not free-flowing traversal stuff. It's pretty linear in terms of how all of its courses are set up. It doesn't always feel like it in the moment, but when you go back and, have all of your skills upgraded, you're bouncing around the map trying to find every last collectible, all the bosses have been defeated, you can definitely feel how on rails it is. A more modern comparison, I think, would be kind of like the Jedi Fallen Order series, somewhere in that neck of the woods in terms of how it uses its traversal. It is pretty linear. You can kind of only approach puzzles one way, but you do have to figure out the puzzle first through trial and error. So it's solid. The coolest part about doing any of the traversal is your character has a clawed arm for some reason that's never explained. He just has a gauntlet with big fingy stabbies on it, so he gets to slide down walls like he's Black Panther. It's cool as shit.
What is a fingy stabby?
He has talons. He can't jerk off with that hand. That's what I'm telling you. He never takes it off. It's got a stink in there.
Sometimes I really hate that you edit these episodes because I can't make a joke that goes too far because I can't trust you to not cut it out.
Yeah, so he gets to, grip onto certain spots. You'll see your, instead of a yellow marker trail up a wall, Final Fantasy, you'll have, it's just an easy target. I like making fun of weebs. Leave me alone.
They're not even close to the yellow paint problem.
I don't even know. Don't worry about it. Don't fact check me.
You're just mad that Final Fantasy and Magic, the card game, is crossing over. That's all this is stemming from.
I didn't even know that.
There's no Magic cards in Final Fantasy, you fucking nerds.
I didn't even know that.
Bullshit, you already liked Jetpack's post about it.
Do you think I actually read?
My ass.
Do you think I can read those things?
Eat ass. With a spoon.
So you have your kind of typical mild wall running, sliding down stuff, climbing up platforms, and because your hand is just really fucking strong for some reason.
Oh, it's really strong.
It gives you superhuman abilities. It's very fun. I don't give a shit that it's never explained. I kind of like it. It's very stylized. It helps the world feel very over the top and very in tune with itself, which is cool. Elika will also throw you around, again, catch you if you fuck up, which you will fuck up a lot. It makes it for a pretty good time of kind of bumping around between weird platforms, dirt paths, and stuff. Combat is where this game gets a lot of hate, and I get why, but I still really like it. I might be nostalgic. Sue me. It's kind of rhythm-based-ish. All combat encounters are a one-on-one, so it will lock you in on one enemy, usually because there are very few enemies within an area, and the boss fights are a very large part of the game, and you have a very big sword, which is very Final Fantasy-esque, actually. And all of the buttons on the face buttons have a different role. So you have one that's for your offhand, one is for your weapon hand, one is to use Elika for a certain ability, the other one's like a jump button or whatever. So you have to chain together various combos using these buttons within certain timing, kind of like the rhythm-based Arkham combat a little bit. They do take place within 3D arenas, but it does primarily take place on a 2D plane. You can move around a lot, and you will use the whole area, but in terms of how the camera is located, it's pretty much always 2D. Obviously, some enemies are impervious to some sorts of attacks. Sometimes you have to jump over them, attack them from behind. You have to use your offhand to claw their face to lower their defense before you can hit them, etc., etc. I fucking like it. It's really simple, but it looks really fucking good when you get a hold of it, especially in the late game where you have a lot of abilities, you're very good at the combat. It feels very fluid. But again, because it is animation-based and timing-based, you can't button mash your way through this, so some people think it sucks. It isn't very hard. None of this game is very hard. It was never really intended to be, but that was, especially at the time, a fairly large criticism, was you always get saved when you fail. You can't really die in a literal sense, but I think because the vast majority of the game is so story-focused, I don't care. The game has its challenges, but it's more about having the good experience. It's during that big era of very cinematic games. And I like that, especially now that Prince of Persia has kind of taken a really hard lean in the other direction of being really hard by the sounds of it and very death heavy, and a little grindy. I don't know. I like this. It's nice. The story is effectively, because of the 4 bosses and the 4 areas, broken up into 6 segments. You have your introduction, your 4 bosses, and your ending. And you can tackle them in any order that you want, which makes character work confusing. They are, I cannot remember what the correct order, quote unquote correct order to do them in is, but character beats will get kind of repeated because they're all supposed to function as, not vignettes, what's the word I'm looking for?
Scenes, memories.
I'm trying to think of an example of another thing that does it, but whatever. Each part of the story focuses really heavy on the boss, what they've done to the people in the area, how their ideology and their worldview works with and against both of you as characters. Whereas your main character is very cynical, he's very out for himself, as one would expect. He really likes the things that he likes, Elika, but he doesn't. There comes a moment where that becomes a very big problem later, which is, this is an ancient spoiler, but I'll wait for it. Elika is very positive. She was raised sheltered. She's naive. She's very optimistic. And instead of having these characters either grow closer together because they start seeing parts of themselves in each other and their worldviews kind of change and grow and they meet somewhere in the middle, or they get really polarized, they stay exactly the fucking same through the whole game. And it's very much so an intentional choice of using each one of the main bosses as a foil to demonstrate the strengths and weaknesses of their viewpoints and kind of how they can work together, but not in a way to change the characters through the story, which for some people is really unsatisfying. I get that. I really like that. It's like a showcase of character work instead of it trying to be necessarily progression. And I think that's really cool because once you get to the end of the game, when you find out how all the big plot machinations have happened, turns out Elika was actually dead at the beginning of the game, sort of, not really. She was kind of revived. It's complicated. She ends up having to sacrifice herself to save all the kingdoms and put everything back in order. And the prince basically says, fuck that, I don't care, brings her back to life, and the game ends with everything getting wiped out. Which is really interesting. This is also before the big wave of video games having a really negative, pessimistic ending of like undoing all your work. This was one of the first ones to do it in such a clear way. So it just, that feels like, especially if this came out now, that would feel kind of samey. We've seen it a million times. Like, wow, games are depressing sometimes.
I was going to ask you if there were alternate endings or anything.
Nope. There is an epilogue, which is a DLC, which changes basically nothing. When she comes to, she effectively says, dude, what the fuck? You don't like me enough to actually honor my wishes? Fuck you, and leaves.
Yikes.
I really like that. I like how much it commits to those choices. He's so attached to her and what she means for him, but not enough where he respects her. It's very cool. It's really solid character writing, especially because your cast of characters is so small. Very big game ender. You literally walk away with her like partially revived corpse while, Ahriman, the big bad guy, like swallows up the castle that she lives in and everything just goes to shit. There's no sequel to this game because it didn't really make a lot of money. It wasn't received terribly well. Technically speaking, there is a continuation because I believe the DS version of this game is an entirely different version of the game, as was common at the time, and it technically takes place afterwards, but nothing really changes, so it doesn't matter. I don't know. I really fuck with that as a point of writing. It feels really in character for these characters, but it also is really unsatisfying for you, the player. It leaves when you sit there and you're like, oh, shit. And there's nothing you can do about it. There are no alternate paths. There are no real story choices that are given to the player. It's just look at these people, do their thing, observe their characters, come to understand them really well, and we're going to end in a really unsatisfying place. And I admire the commitment to that. Despite the fact that the game is very, very funny throughout most of it, it doesn't tend to be that depressing. I believe it is rated teen. Because black goop monsters, there isn't a lot of blood. You can get away with that. And Nolan North is not really known for shutting up and being serious, before this stereotype really wore out its welcome. So there's a lot of banter back and forth. It is very consistently funny and unserious about the characters while serious about the world building. And then to end on such a dour note really, really hits it home, which is pretty heckin' cool. It's fucking gorgeous. I guess my final bit of anything is it looks really good and is held up particularly well. I think because it aims to have a more cinematic style with really high quality textures, pretty solid character models, and a very over-the-top art style. There's a bit of, I don't remember the actual influences that led to this, so when I say it, I swear I'm not being completely derivative. It's got a little Bloodborne-ism in it, kind of.
Interesting.
Tiny little bit. Because we have the fantasy Persian setting, we have some steampunk kind of creeping in some areas. There's something in there that's a little similar. Very different color palette. It's nowhere near that intense or dark, and it's not all of the game, but there's a little bit of that in there, which is pretty cool. The lighting holds up really well. I was very impressed with that. It seems to be a common thing of games from like the late 2000s to early 2010s is either the graphics hold up or the lighting holds up. It's only one of the two. And I think this one kind of manages both. The faces are a little rough in hindsight, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, it's old. I can't math right now. It's 17 years old.
Woof.
It looks really good for that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I played the Xbox 360 version on my modern Xbox. I played the DLC epilogue over again. That was a couple of extra dollars through the digital marketplace. It's fine. I guess it's worth buying if you like it. It doesn't really change a lot. It doesn't feel like some massive secret ending that they cut off to just sell back to you. I still fuck with this game real heavy. I was glad that my opinion did not change very much. This was one of the, I think, first fairly story-heavy games I got into, outside of whatever bullshit is still a large chunk of my personality, like Halo or whatever.
Maybe I missed it, but did you talk about how influential or how much platforming there is in this game?
There is a lot of platforming, but it is not very challenging. It is more so figuring out your route rather than, like, there's very large segments where you just don't touch the ground. But it's about figuring out the route more than it is about the specific timing and the on-the-fly thinking. A lot more of it is some trial and error. Again, you don't die, you just immediately get put back on the ground. So it encourages you to kind of run through stuff.
That's helpful.
It is. Total playtime was about 8 hours, another 2 maybe for the DLC. Completion time is about 15, if I remember my last time around, which was like 5 years ago. Dude, you can find this game pretty cheap. It's not really common because it didn't sell super well, so it's not like finding copies of Halo 3 everywhere, but it's not hard to find and it's not very expensive. So I think that this one is genuinely worth picking up if any of either like light Metroidvania platforming or this type of story thing fucks with your brain. Me likey. A tier. I'm biased. It's probably a B.
What is your history with other Prince of Persia games?
A lot of it's hard to remember. I'm fairly confident I played the remake or remaster of the first one, the original side scroller. That it takes an hour to finish. It's not like that much. Yeah,
like the OG.
Yeah, the
Commodore 64 version or whatever the fuck that is.
Wasn't that old, but yeah.
I think that's where it started.
Okay, but I was also playing the re-release, which was on Xbox for like $3.
Oh, okay.
It's really short. All of the original games are very short. The popular games are much longer and more fleshed out, but
I'm pretty sure Prince of Persia is the first video game that did like motion capture. Basically, they recorded themselves like doing big long jumps in their backyard, and then they animated according to that video or whatever.
That rings a bell. Prince of Persia came out in '89 for the Apple.
Yeah.
It's been re-released a fair amount of time, though.
I've seen I finished a video game movie about this. It's like 4 or 5 hours long.
Yeah, all 3 of the original ones are pretty small by comparison. They're difficult. So I think that might have been my first one, which would have been the re-release through Xbox Live.
That's crazy.
I have played, I think, all 4 of the first reboot, so all the popular ones. That was a long time ago. The only one I really remember is Sands of Time, because, you know, it's kind of the big one. I remember a little bit of, I believe it was The Lost Sands, which was the 4th entry that came out after Prince of Persia 08. That was like, we're kind of floundering on what to do. We have much better graphics. We should put like an in-between cool in here. That came out
also
around.
Assassin's Creed is popular now.
Yeah, and that came out just around when the movie released. We'll get to that. But I think that's it. So I've played 2/3 ish. Not super familiar. This is much by a wide margin the one I'm very familiar with, which is weird because it's the one that people don't like.
I'll probably forget by the time we get to my review, but my only experience with Prince of Persia games is the 1 or 2 Vita games, and you're literally like on a boat in the first level, and the fucking opening boss is like harder than any Souls opening boss. It is such bullshit. I tried it on the Vita, and I think I tried it on my PS5 lately because I have like the super duper PS Plus membership that lets me play like Vita games on my PS5. And I tried it again recently. I was like, this boss is such bullshit. Like I can't do it.
I think that one would have been Forbidden Sands, I think.
Really?
Yeah. Not Forgotten Sands, whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
that would have been the in-between cool.
I don't remember. It's bullshit. I hate it. That's my only other history besides the one I'm going to talk about.
Fair.